Hi everyone, my name is Jacob from TVQC and Extreme Cinema Reviews. Today I am with the award-winning director Moshe. Jared Moshe from the movie that is that screened at the Fantasia International Film Festival on July 27th and July 28th. So you presented at Fantasia International Film Festival your movie. What did you think of the public reaction?
I've never been to Fantasia before, and I've heard it has the best audiences in the world. So I was really excited for that. I was a little nervous that, because it's such a genre festival, that people were gonna expect exploding heads. I didn't have exploding heads, but it was an incredible response. The number of people who the film touched here, it was really wonderful. So I can't imagine a better place to have world premiere at Aporia.
Did you get any ovation for the movie?
Yes, people were just over the moon for it.
And it is a sci-fi movie. Do you think it is a sci-fi or more of a drama movie?
I always called it a sci-fi love story. I like to sort of say what happens if Primer met Blue Valentine.
Okay.
Because I think it is a sci-fi movie, but it is very much rooted in human emotion and love.
Great. And what was it like to make a movie like Aporia?
It was a crazy shoot. We shot in COVID, so that was an adventure in and of itself. But one of the coolest parts about it was that I set it to be in LA. I wanted it to be sort of in the parts of LA that we don't normally see. So not Beverly Hills, not Santa Monica, not West Hollywood. And we were trying to find a location to shoot it in. And it was amazingly expensive to shoot everywhere in LA. I should have figured this out. So we couldn't find a main house, and then I was at my son's t-ball game. And I was talking to one of his friend's parents who was on the team, and they were just saying they were going away this summer, and I was like, "You're going away? When are you going away?" And it turned out they were going away while we were shooting, and we were able to strike a deal and shoot in their house, and their house was so perfect for the movie because it was a house that was, very run down, and they were in the process of trying to slowly fix it up themselves, so it felt like sort of the characters in the movie, stuck between two different worlds.
Nice. And should Aporia to be open to interpretation, or do you have a clear idea of the meaning of the movie?
I think the ending is open to interpretation. I think you can sort of take the ending where you want it. I think it's important to me, what I want is at the end of this movie to, people to go home and call the person that they haven't spoken to in a while, or give their kid a hug, or kiss their spouse, just value the people you love in your life.
And it is a movie obviously about griefs, about love, about family. What was the idea in making Aporia? Were you looking for an atmosphere or in particular?
I really wanted to make something that was about human connection and the little relationships we have. A lot of this movie sort of came about when I wrote it around the birth of my son. My son was 1, I think at the time, and I just made the Ballad of Lefty Brown. And I was suddenly realizing how scary and uncertain the world was. I was busy, suddenly health insurance became a much bigger thing. In America, health insurance is a very big thing. Making sure everything, just being there and being present and trying to control the world so they were safe became something I was wrestling with. And so the more I was wrestling with that, I decided, I want to wrestle with this in the script. And as I was all right, now how do I tell that story? And as I was sort of figuring that out, I remembered I'd had this crazy idea for a gun that fired a bullet into the past that I didn't never know what to do with. And I was like, oh, what if I used that sort of crazy idea and put it in a world where someone's trying to battle the uncertainty of the life and come back to sort of a home that they know and feel comfortable in.
Do you feel that people will compare the gun to a time machine?
It's a total time machine. I mean, it is described as a time machine that went completely and utterly wrong. So yeah, I think it should feel like, it is the most decrepit, fire hazard looking time machine in the world. But yeah, I think it is a sort of weird time machine.
Great. And the performances of the actors and actresses are absolutely perfect. What was it like to work with them? How did you choose them?
I was so blessed to get my cast. So the first actor we got was Judy Greer, and I've always loved Judy Greer as an actress. She, she for years she's been always sort of the sidekick, not the sidekick. She's always been like the romantic best friend, or the person you sort of recognize in a supporting role. But she is such an expressive actor, and you see it when she gets opportunities, whether it's The Descendants or Halloween, these opportunities, and I like the idea because the casting her in this role, because one, she's a talented actor, but two, like, this movie is shining the camera on people who who we don't usually get in the set in lead roles. We're not looking at like the most privileged people in the world who are building a time machine with their endless money. We're looking at people who are, just struggling to get by. And because of that, Judy was perfect for casting it. And so we cast her. And then, after knowing Judy, who is so full of like energy in her performances and has so much emotion and is so expressive, you have Eddie Gathegi, who is stillness. And he's still, but he emotes so much with his eyes. And so sort of her being the energy sort of part of the relationship and him being the still one felt like the perfect dynamic for the two of them to be together. And then Payman Mahdi has been one of my favorite actors ever since a separation. And so, he was the dream for Jabir, and we were so lucky to get him because he's such a talented actor. And I think the world knows he's this incredible actor, and America doesn't. So hopefully after this movie, they will get a much better sense of how wonderful he is.
I think you're right. I really loved his performance. It was very good. It was touching at the same time, and it was like presented in the most human way possible, and that was very great. And how long did it take to complete Aporia?
So we shot it in 17 days, which was insane.
Whoa! Really?
Yes.
Wow.
17 days. And it was intense. We were supposed to have more, but COVID and everything just kept cutting down the cost and eating into the budget. So we ended up but it was, I was able to sit down with my actors ahead of time and really go through the script. So when everyone got on set, they all knew exactly where we were and what they had to do and everything. So there wasn't a lot of time for we would explore and go through and experiment, but everyone knew what the role was and knew their characters inside and out.
And if you could say one word about Aporia, what would you tell them it's about?
I would say it's about people. It's about accepting the things you can't control.
Okay, I see. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And I noticed that the movie doesn't have any CGI, unless I'm mistaken, and there's just flawless CGI that I haven't seen or noticed.
There's no CGI. There is cell phones that had to be VFX'd in. I'd made westerns before this, so I'd never had to deal with this before. But yes, when you put cell phones in movies and stuff, you actually have to they're all blank, and then you have to do it all in post and put it in. So there are VFX, but that doesn't really count for what you're talking about.
I do think that it was very brilliant and actually I thought it was refreshing to see and to watch a movie who doesn't have any CGI, because everything now is CGI. Everything now has huge VFX and huge action scenes. And I thought it was very more, it bring more intimacy.
Yeah, I think I was really interested in the human reactions and the human emotions of it. And I wanted it to be really grounded in the characters and their experiences. I wasn't interested, there's a version of this movie that could have suddenly started showing abstract particles going back in time and creating these elaborate, CGI worlds, But to me, that takes away from what I'm trying to achieve, which is, the fabric of human connection and staying with the characters and seeing this through their lived experience.
And where was the movie shot?
It was actually shot mostly in East LA in El Sereno, which is near where I live. So I could walk to work for half of it, which is very cool. And we shot, it was great. It was actually very funny. People came up to us on the street and were like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, we're shooting a movie." And they're like, "You're shooting a movie in El Sereno?" Like, it was the most ridiculous thing in the world because it's such just like this little neighborhood on the edge of in LA City, but just on the edge of LA, in East LA, that people don't really know about, and is a really wonderful community. And we're able to really involve a lot of the community.
And amongst all of the film that you made, which one is your favorite?
I can't answer that question. That's not fair. I
Why?
love all my babies equally.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. But is there one movie that you worked more or that it was more difficult to work?
Every film is difficult in its own way. So, like, my first movie was that I had never directed a film before, and I went out to New Mexico to shoot a Western on film with guns and horses, and I only had like $200,000.
Wow.
And it was insane, and we were in the middle of nowhere, and we had no resources, and, you know, I remember nights of basically, like, running, like, trying to get the camera getting wrapped so we could have beat a rainstorm that was going to make the Arroyo flood that would have trapped us on the hill where we were shooting. I mean, like, so that's, like, one type of, like, incredible difficulty. You know, the Ballad of Lefty Brown we shot that in Montana, you know, it was my first time working with very big actors, like Bill Pullman and Peter Fonda, and we were trying to do this elaborate giant Western, and you never knew what was, you know, we were dealing with horses. Again, it was like horses and gunfights and action, and it was like, when you're shooting a Western, you're living a Western, you know, you're in Montana. Like, I couldn't see dailies. I would shoot on film, we'd ship it off, you know, and the next day, then they would get to PhotoChem, they would process it, it would get to my editor like a day later, then he would, you know, upload the dailies, and I would be able to download them maybe 2 days later because the internet was so slow. So I was like 5 days behind on my dailies, which is insane. Aporia, we shot 103 pages in 17 days, all over LA, you
Wow.
know, with many locations and extras and big scenes, and so they were every film is a miracle. I don't know which one is more of a miracle, but every film is a miracle.
And did you have a huge team for making Aporia?
No, we didn't have a huge team. We were a pretty small crew, but it was one of the best crews I've ever worked with. Everyone was so engaged. Everyone really responded to the script. You know, you often make movies and not everyone reads the script. Like, I felt like everyone had read the script. Everyone was connected. Everyone was invested in what we were doing. And it was a nimble, wonderful group of people, and, you know, they deserve every accolade that the film is getting.
Great. And was there any funny stories that happened on set while making Aporia?
Oh gosh. Funny stories on set. I'm sure there are. Let's see. Everything feels so intense. All the time. You know, it was, I don't know if it was funny, but it was fun. We were in every neighborhood we would shoot in. We'd, like, go and we'd all be trying to find the best local food we could get. So, like, people would be arguing over who made the best tamales in El Sereno, or, like, you know, which has the best, like, smoked meat sandwich when we were shooting at the deli. It was a lot of, like, ridiculous things like that. I did bring my kids to when we were shooting the bowling alley sequence in the movie. And it's kind of funny that there's a scene in that montage where there's bowling, and one of my actors, Veda, who is playing Aggie, runs to go bowl, and she nearly runs over a little girl who's sitting right there, and that's my daughter.
And do you have an idea when the movie will be released?
Sure, it's going to be released in the U.S. on August 11th, so it's coming out soon in select theaters.
Okay. Is it coming in Canada as well?
It should be coming to Canada as well. Yeah, the distributor wants to hit all of North America.
Nice. And what is your favorite horror? Not horror, but what is your favorite movie? Like, is there a movie that made you think, I want to do movie later?
I think I would say. Okay. I was not my favorite movie. Not even like a top 5 favorite movie, but a movie that sort of made me want to do movies was Braveheart. Because I remember watching that movie and then talking about it with people. And I was amazed at what people's understanding of Scottish history was influenced by it. You know, that the Battle of Stirling took place in a giant field when in fact it took place on a bridge. That like there are statues of William Wallace now that look like Mel Gibson. And I was so amazed by the way that film was able to influence people's understanding of history. I wanted to embrace that and be able to tell stories that influence people's understanding of the world.
Well, thank you very much for this interview. That was very interesting, and thanks again for taking the time to come here and talk to me and talk to us for this interview.
Oh, thank you for talking to me. This has been a fantastic conversation.